The morning snow fell softly on the busy streets of downtown Chicago, turning the city into a winter wonderland that would have been beautiful if Marcus hadn't been running late for the most important job interview of his life. At 34, with his engineering degree finally complete after years of night school, this position at Harrison Industries represented everything he'd worked toward. Marcus adjusted his navy suit jacket as he hurried down the sidewalk, his breath forming, small clouds in the crisp December air. The interview was scheduled for 9:30, and it was already 9:15. He'd planned everything perfectly, leaving extra time for traffic, but hadn't counted on his elderly neighbor Mrs. Chen needing help with her frozen pipes that morning. That's when he saw her. A woman in an elegant cream-colored wool coat stood. Beside a luxury sedan, its hood raised like a metallic mouth opened in distress. She was perhaps in her early 40s, with long blonde hair catching the morning light, and she looked utterly lost as she stared at the engine. Marcus slowed his pace, his mother's voice echoing in his memory. "Son, you never walk past someone who needs help, no matter how busy you are. Character isn't what you do when people are watching, it's what you do when no one would ever know." The woman looked up as he approached, and he could see the worry in her blue eyes. "Excuse me," Marcus said gently. "I couldn't help but notice you're having car trouble. I'm pretty good with engines. Would you like me to take a look?" Relief flooded her face. "Oh, thank goodness! I'm supposed to be somewhere very important in 15 minutes, and it just died. I'm Emma, by the way." "Marcus," he replied, already rolling up his sleeves despite the cold. "Let me see what we're dealing with here." As he leaned over the engine, Emma noticed the careful way he'd dressed. The pressed suit, the polished shoes now getting wet in the slush. "You look like you're headed somewhere important yourself," she observed. Marcus smiled, without looking up from the engine compartment. "Job interview? Been preparing for months, actually. But cars don't care about our schedules, do they?" Emma watched him work, noting the methodical way he checked connections and tested components. There was something deeply decent about this stranger who'd stopped to help her without hesitation, even at obvious personal cost. "There," Marcus said after. 10 minutes of careful adjustment. "Your battery terminal was corroded and it loosened in the cold. Should start right up now." Emma turned the key, and the engine purred to life. She stepped out of the car, overwhelmed with gratitude. "Marcus, I can't thank you enough. Please, let me drive you wherever you're going. It's the least I can do." Marcus glanced at his watch. 9:40. The interview was already over before it began. "That's very kind of you, Emma, but I'm afraid I've already missed my appointment. These things happen." The acceptance in his voice, the complete lack of bitterness or regret, struck Emma deeply. Here was a man who'd given up something clearly important to him without a moment's hesitation, and he seemed genuinely at peace with that choice. "What kind of position were you interviewing for?" she asked. "Senior project engineer at Harrison Industries. It's a wonderful company. They do sustainable infrastructure development. I've been following their work for years." Marcus's eyes lit up as he spoke about the company's mission. "They're the kind of organization where you can really make a difference." Emma felt something extraordinary happening in her chest, a recognition of the kind of person she'd been hoping to find for her company. "Marcus," she said carefully. "What's your last name?" "Williams. Marcus Williams." Emma pulled out her phone and made a quick call. "Jennifer, this is Emma Harrison. I need you to reschedule the 9:30 interview with Marcus Williams." "No, nothing's wrong. Actually, everything's exactly right. Move it to 11 o'clock in my office." "Yes, my office specifically." Marcus stared at her as she hung up. "Harrison, as in Harrison Industries?" Emma smiled, extending her hand formally. "Emma Harrison, CEO. And Marcus, that was the most unconventional pre-interview I've ever experienced." The color drained from Marcus's face. "Oh no, Ms. Harrison, I'm so sorry. I had no idea." "Sorry?" Emma laughed, a warm sound that echoed off the surrounding buildings. "Marcus, in 10 minutes on a snowy sidewalk, you've shown me more about your character than any traditional interview could have. You saw someone who needed help, and you helped. You sacrificed something important to you without expecting anything in return. You worked competently under pressure, communicated clearly, and maintained grace when things didn't go as planned." She gestured toward her car. "Now, let me give you that ride I offered. We have an interview to get to." During the short drive to Harrison Industries, Emma learned about Marcus's years of night school, his work as a maintenance supervisor while earning his degree, and his genuine passion for sustainable engineering. But more importantly, she'd already seen what she needed to see. The formal interview in her office was almost anticlimactic. Marcus's qualifications were impressive, his portfolio of personal projects was innovative, and his references were glowing. But Emma had made her decision on a snowy street corner. "Marcus," she said as the interview concluded, "I'd like to offer you the position. But more than that, I'd like to tell you why." She stood and walked to her office window, looking down at the street where they'd met. "In 20 years of building this company, I've learned that technical skills can be taught, but character can't. You stopped to help a stranger when it cost you something precious. You worked diligently without knowing who I was or what you might gain. You showed kindness, competence, and integrity when you thought no one important was watching." Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. "Ms. Harrison, I can't tell you what this means to me." "Emma," she corrected gently. "And Marcus, my car wasn't actually broken." Marcus's eyes widened in surprise. Emma smiled. "It was a test I designed after too many disappointing interviews with people who looked perfect on paper but lacked the character I needed. The battery terminal was loose, but not enough to prevent starting. I was curious to see if anyone would stop to help, and if they did, how they'd handle the situation." "So you knew who I was when I stopped?" "I had your resume on my desk and your photo from our HR system." "But Marcus, even knowing it was a test, the way you handled it, your genuine concern, your skill, your grace when you thought you'd missed the interview, that was all real. That's who you are." Marcus shook his head in wonder. "My mother always said that how you treat people when you think no one's watching shows your true character." "Your mother sounds like a wise woman," Emma said. "I'd like to meet her sometime." 3 years later, Marcus had not only excelled in his role, but had been promoted to lead Harrison Industries' community outreach program, a position that perfectly married his engineering skills with his natural inclination to help others. And every December, on the anniversary of that snowy morning, Marcus and Emma would share coffee and remember the day they learned that sometimes the most important interviews happen when you're not trying to impress anyone. You're just trying to be kind. The lesson became part of Harrison Industries' culture. The best measure of a person isn't what they do when they're being evaluated, but what they do when they think no one who matters is watching. Because someone who matters is always watching, even if it's just your own conscience, reminding you of who you choose to be.